Hello and welcome to another IBTimes video podcast. I'm Nick Howson. Once again, I'm joined by Tony Mogan and Adrian Beck. And guys, I think it's probably important we start with the Champions League, sort of a look back at the week that's just been. Wins for Manchester City, for Manchester United and for Chelsea. Defeat for Arsenal, but in admirable performance from them, certainly against that Borussia Dortmund team. Where does the balance lie, as far as you're concerned, with the English sides? This time last year, we were looking at perhaps only two going through eventually and two going out. We could have all four this year, couldn't we?
Yeah, I guess there is genuine hope for all four sides. As you said, they're all at a very similar stage. We're halfway through and they've each got a couple of wins. So I guess the only thing I'd say is that Manchester United, Man City and Chelsea are going to look at their groups and think we should pick up possibly another 2 wins even, and it should be quite secure. I think Arsenal are the ones that are looking at it with a little bit of concern, having to go away to Napoli and away to Dortmund. That's 2 very, very difficult fixtures. And I do wonder if they'll do enough, despite how well they're playing. And as you said, they're fantastic for portions of that game against Dortmund, but they obviously let it slip, and when the push came to shove, they couldn't quite get the result they needed, and perhaps a draw really would have been the better result for them there.
Yeah, I reckon for the 2 Manchester clubs in particular, they could have handpicked fixtures where they thought we can take a point here, we'll be happy with that. We can take 3 points and we'll be delighted with that. Whereas for Arsenal, every game would be on a game-by-game basis. There was no sort of prediction as to how it would go, regardless of if they were home or away. So I don't think they'll be too disappointed with how proceedings have gone so far. It will just be the case of seeing how the other fixtures go and how they progress, because these sort of games at these sort of teams, the home and away rule is going to differ week by week. So I can see how that one goes.
And as for Chelsea, a home defeat in the first week, and almost typical Mourinho, 2 back-to-back away wins in very impressive circumstances as well. You'd think that they're on course to make the knockouts phase as well, wouldn't you?
It was a sort of archetypal away performance in Europe against a very organised Schalke side, has to be said. After the Basel loss, I don't think there was too many Chelsea fans worried about that pattern following out throughout the group. But 2 very impressive away performances that were 2 weeks prior have them very well placed now.
I mean, it would be wrong of us to look back at the Champions League and not look at the performances of one Zlatan Ibrahimovich and another one, Cristiano Roanldo. You know, we learned on Monday that only one of those will play in the World Cup next year, unfortunately, given the nature of the playoff draw. How disappointing is that? And do either of you have a preference over who do you prefer to see in Brazil next summer?
As you said, it is disappointing, but it's not like we haven't seen these players at major tournaments before, and they're not, with all due respect, they're not playing for countries that will probably be in with a shout of winning it anyway. If they do go, Ibrahimovic is a standout player and so is Ronaldo, but the sides they play in aren't fantastic, unlike for their clubs. Watching them for PSG and watching them for Real Madrid is something special. And while they've got those moments of magic for their countries are going to struggle at a major tournament. So overall, I wasn't really too concerned with the fact that they're playing each other. It'll be an interesting game. If I had to pick one, which I'd rather see, I'd probably pick Ibrahimovic. Just at the minute, he's the peak of his powers. He's so confident, and the goals he's scoring are outrageous. As you said, that hat-trick goal the other day, something like 90 mile an hour, the strike. I mean, that's incredible.
I mean, where do you stand on the Ronaldo Ibrahimovic debate? We've seen them at major tournaments before, and it hasn't always really happened for them, have they? Do they? Which one deserves a second chance to convince us?
Well, both these players, they've at various points in their career, they've always had a question: can he replicate their club form at international level? And with respect to both players, they haven't done it at these international tournaments. So as long as they keep doing what they are doing, as we saw last night at club level, I don't think people are going to. I think people can go without them for 4 weeks, 6 weeks in next summer.
Just looking forward to the Premier League this weekend, and let's look at the present in some ways with Ian Holloway leaving Crystal Palace, resigning after 8 games. Just 1 win from that, and that came against Sunderland, who are, of course, the only team below them in the league. Holloway said that he'd lost the energy, they didn't feel up to the challenge. Tony Pulis is heavily linked with the position. Is there too much for him to even do now at this stage?
Potentially, yeah. Holloway made quite a few changes, a lot of them very late on in the window. But I don't think he had a great understanding with the players he brought in and the players who were already there. Owen Garvan, for example, was never in Holloway's sort of contention for a starting place. So for a new manager to come in with all these players who weren't really sure of their position at the start of the season, how would they feel now with a new manager when things are quite worse off than they were 3 months ago.
I mean, what of Pulis as well? I mean, wasn't relegated with Stoke, and he took himself from a Football League manager and made himself a Premier League boss established as well. I mean, if he were to go to Selhurst Park, as you say, is it the amount of change that was made under Holloway and the amount of players that suddenly left? That's a Wilfred Zaha and Glenn Murray. Not fit, of course, until the new year. How much is there to do, and is it a job that Pulis is really going to want to take on?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head with that one. Does he want the job? Has he got the energy, which is exactly what Ian Holloway was saying? He didn't have the motivation to try and get the best out of that signing. He knew it was going to be an incredibly difficult task. We'd seen how poorly they've performed in some of the games already this season. And to be honest, it rests on Tony Pulis. It's probably going to come down to his decision. If he would like the job, if he thinks he's got enough energy for it to take them forward and try and get the most out of these players and inspire them, then I guess he could think about it. But he might consider that there's going to be a better job coming up further down the line. Obviously, plenty of managers get sacked in a Premier League season. There's no doubt going to be another one or two go, probably before Christmas. I mean, we did see that Neil Warnock's got linked with the job and possibly a return as he's out. But he's a guy that left the club and got so he didn't have the stomach for the fight. So not a guy you want coming back either. It's a difficult one, but you have to sort of feel for Holloway because he took it with great dignity as well, the way he stepped down.
You have to wonder what's in the water at Selhurst Park, wouldn't you, a little bit? In terms of some of the games, obviously Palace, that they host Arsenal in the first game, and that's anything but an ideal fixture given Arsenal's league form, especially. We look forward to Sunday's games, the Weir Tyne derby, Sunderland versus Newcastle. Certainly, it was a scene of redemption for Sunderland and Paolo Di Canio last season, and it's kind of a similar situation, isn't it? No wins in the first 8 games, and Gus Poyet needs a win to sort of kick-start. He hasn't had any sort of honeymoon period, especially at Swansea last weekend. They were dreadful.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can guarantee this is going to be a bad game. I don't think we can be expecting anything special from this one. This is two sides really struggling. Both sides need a performance, and it's who performs on the day. I mean, the good thing for Newcastle, Loic Remy's been fantastic. He's been a shining light for them. He's been in great form, looks like a natural finisher, and he will get goals. And you do look at Sunderland, and wonder who's going to score. There really isn't much there now. As you said, they've been just so blunt. They really struggle to create any kind of chances. And if Poyet can inspire them, I really don't know if he can this quickly. It seems a bit too early. I fancy Newcastle, to be honest.
I think we were raising similar questions that Adrian did there about Sunderland last season, where the goal's going to come from, not particularly creative, very feeble at the back. But yet they turned it around and beat that Newcastle team under Andy Apology, who themselves, of course, had a poor season. So therefore, they've proven that this fixture can be the sort of the grounding for a season going ahead. I mean, how do you see Sunday's game?
I think the difference between the situation that will arise on Sunday and for the last derby last season, there was a sense when Di Canio came in that things will get better because there's no other option. Things have to get better, but they haven't. They've stayed the same. They've, in a way, got worse because it doesn't look as if anything can go right at the club at the minute. Poyet's introduction didn't really inspire much last week against Swansea, and a bad result at St James's Park will potentially, well, if you could unsettle a club any further, then that will do it.
And finally, let's just look at a game that we think should have more of an impact at the other end of the table, you would think. Chelsea host Manchester City. Just look at Chelsea that draws with Tottenham, draws with Manchester United. They weren't overly ambitious in either. Are we going to see a different change of tack from Mourinho at home, albeit against another title rival?
Yeah, I'm not sure we will. I think Mourinho likes to keep these kind of games tight. This is what he sort of works towards. It was only when he got quite frustrated at getting a lot of abuse essentially from the Spanish press for not playing an open game that he then tried after a couple of seasons to really attack Barcelona. But before that, he's quite happy with that negative style. And if he thinks that's the way to go forward, the way to get a result, I think he'll stick with it. And I just wonder if it'll be a battle of who can actually open up the defences, where the creative spark will come from. We've seen David Silva's sort of gone under the radar slightly. I think he's been in fantastic form. If he can create opportunities, I can see City carving out a couple of chances. I just think Mourinho will look to be quite negative and hopefully sneak a victory.
And just quickly, Manchester City haven't looked themselves ready since the United win, have they?
No, after that 4-1 win, it looked like they were really going to kick on, but between sketchy Champions League performances and performances away from home, it's a bit difficult to guess where this one's going to go, really, for them.
Well, it's only one to look forward to. Anyway, I think that's all we've got time for on the IBTimes video podcast. For all the latest in the Champions League and the Premier League, just go to ibtimes.co.uk/sports. Well, until next time, goodbye.